Welcome to a home makeover with a difference. Over a 12-week period, we transformed a mid-sized 1930s detached property to see if we can make it more energy efficient, reduce its carbon footprint, and make it more sustainable. It's what's called a retrofit, and it's something 29 million UK homeowners are going to need to consider over the coming years as part of the government's target of the UK reaching net zero by 2050. Homes up and down the land will need to undergo this transition, but to many homeowners, retrofitting can seem confusing, messy, and very expensive. It's also extremely difficult to even know where to start. That's why we've tried out retrofitting for ourselves. So join us as we tell you all about the Big Retrofit, what we've done to transform our property, the impact the measures have had, and what we've learned that could help. This is the Big Retrofit.
Retrofitting is set to be a big talking point over the next few years, and for many homeowners that can be a huge challenge. The government wants as many homes in the UK as possible to have a minimum energy performance certificate rating of C or above by 2035, in just over a decade. To reach that target, we need at least 1.5 million homes per year to go through the retrofitting process. Today, only 250,000 homes are doing just that.
Yeah, an EPC and energy performance certificate is a really good way to start to understand where your property is at today. The information can at times be, outdated, but it's absolutely a great way to sort of understand where does your property sit relative to others on that A down to G rating, ensuring that ultimately less heat is escaping from your property, so making your home more environmentally friendly and also more comfortable. It is, however, I think a very blunt instrument to understanding what to do next. For example, putting in cavity wall insulation or an air source heat pump. Putting things like solar panels on where you can actually generate your own electricity and you're not having to pay the grid for that energy, and potentially putting in a battery where you can store that energy for then, powering up your heat pump and possibly an electric vehicle. People buy a property, put in their new kitchen, put in their new bathrooms, new carpet, paint, whatever, and then think about the insulation. They're all intertwined and there's some complexity there. And I think thinking about it all in one is less common. I think the Regent Road project is fantastic. I think Skipton are doing a fantastic job at creating awareness in the market about retrofitting, about making your home more energy efficient. And this is what we need.
At Skipton Building Society, we have an acute awareness of the situation. We head up the Skipton Group, which is made up of different organisations with different goals. This includes the UK's largest estate agency, Connells, which owns the UK EPC Plus supplier, Vibrant, and retrofit assessor specialists, Harvey, Donaldson and Gibson. Together, the organisations that make up the Skipton Group provide us with a unique overview of the UK housing market and the challenges that homeowners face.
We offer our members free EPC Plus reports through Vibrant Energy, which explains the home's EPC rating and also, importantly, gives recommendations on how you can look to improve it. But what we found that despite having the EPC Plus report, many members were still finding barriers and challenges that were preventing them from taking the next step, which is why we harness the power of the Skipton Group to really understand the challenges and how we could best overcome them. Because at the end of the day, there's no better way of learning about retrofitting than doing it ourselves.
We were able to retrofit a home that we own, which sits opposite our Skipton Building Society head office. It's a fairly standard UK home. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a separate dining room, kitchen and lounge. It had an EPC rating of D, right in line with the UK average. Working with other Skipton Group organisations, we transformed the place. The measures included upgrading the property's heating system to an air source heat pump system, installing solar panels and battery storage for on-site renewable electricity generation and storage, improving heat retention by adding extensive insulation under the floorboards, inside cavity walls and between loft joists, developing a ventilation strategy for the full property so air flows better in and out of the house, adding triple glazing and replacement doors to better insulate the home, installing new radiators, an electric vehicle charging point and LED lights.
From our point of view, and I think this is again from Skipton trying to get the most out of the project, is the changes it makes to the comfort of the home. So we have already gone before, and the retrofit work was done, we did some fabric performance tests to sort of look at what the U values are, how well the building performs as a whole, so that when the retrofit work is done, we can go back and repeat those tests and see what's worked well where, what the U values are now, that kind of thing. A good starting point is get to know your house. So you need to know what you've got on the walls, what's in your roof, and then trying to get the faff to benefit ratio right. And people don't necessarily have anyone to go to as their first step. And the fact that this is there as an option from Skipton, who is a trusted source, is great.
Looking back, it's gone okay. At the time, there's been challenging bits that have caught us unaware. Discovering asbestos. It's just a matter of getting on and dealing with it in the appropriate way. You know, the difference to when we started work on the house to now is unbelievable. And what made us notice was when the heat came on and how the house retained the heat better than it did before. Is that down to the underfloor loft cavity wall insulation, the triple glazing, the air source heat pump and the new central heating, you know, a new roof? The insulation is probably the larger element of it, but the triple glazing is definitely going to help as well.
Where possible, we wanted to go about the retrofit like a typical homeowner. But equally, as we're a large organisation, we knew we were able to lean on wider-ranging expertise. There were opportunities where we could go beyond what a typical homeowner might do, and we wanted to take those opportunities to enhance our overall learning experience. We want to be really open about all the costs involved, the initiatives that worked really well, the ideas that we tried, and what we thought needed to change. And most importantly, we really wanted to understand what difference the retrofit measures made.
We learned so much from the Big Retrofit, and we're pleased to be able to share these things with you. In a nutshell, the process of retrofitting is, in essence, the same as home renovations and repairs. It often makes practical and financial sense to do it at the same time. We had the advantage of retrofitting a property that was unoccupied. This allowed us to do more extensive work compared to what a homeowner living in the property might be able to do in one go. The Big Retrofit removed the property's reliance on fossil fuels for heating. It also improved the heat retention. It is possible to make older homes warm, comfortable and future-proof. In total, we've seen a 54% reduction in overall heat loss in the property. Post-retrofit EPC assessment saw this home's rating increase from D to B. In fact, it was just a few points below A. Retrofit changes can be big or small and don't need to be costly. Unfortunately, retrofitting can't guarantee lower energy bills. What we've instead learned is that reducing energy bill costs could require other influences, such as smart tariffs, changes to your user behaviour, and energy price policy changes. There are cost savings to be made if you can access available grants, smart energy tariffs and VAT savings. However, we did find a lot of complexity over VAT, and awareness of available grants is generally on the low side.
Sometimes to go from an E to a C is not a massive jump, it's like a single measure to get there. Whereas from the same rating to the same target rating for another property can be extremely difficult, and it's a mixture of 5 to 6 different measures. But also the higher up the scale that you go, the harder it is to get even higher. So it really is dependent on the property, which is why we look at each individual property and factor in what needs to be done based on the motivations for them.
It's a much taller order to get them into a C rating. We can look at the most efficient, effective ways of achieving a C rating, and we can avoid high disruption measures if necessary. We can avoid some of the super expensive measures. We can look at financing options and those sort of things as well.
We hope that sharing our learnings will help our members consider retrofitting themselves. We also want to support policymakers in trying to make sure the government hits its net zero targets. We've emerged from the retrofit with a number of policy recommendations that we will be campaigning for. You can find out more about these in the report we've published on our website.
If we're going to move towards heat pumps and decarbonisation and electrification of heat, we need to reduce the demand we place on the grid, and retrofitting is a way of doing that, of reducing that demand. In my mind, I'm hoping the PV will work very well. PV is a much more positive kind of addition that people have made to their homes, and with a battery as well. The research that Skipton's doing is so important.
Actually installing the solar panels is one thing, but maximising the benefit from a solar PV array is really key. To be able to control all of that energy flow and distribution is really important. Effectively now, if you own the property and you're removing a fossil fueled heating system, then you're eligible for accessing £7,500 contribution. Somewhere between 70 and 80% of UK homeowners now are eligible for that £7,500 grant funding.
It's taken us 12 weeks of, quite hard work at sometimes. Every element that we've done has been worthwhile, and as an individual element for someone else to do, quite easily feasible and easy to do. It's been enjoyable. Nothing negative to say anyway.
Making the finance available and having the advice available for homeowners and the supply chain available to really build this market and build momentum and do it quickly is going to be absolutely key to meeting our net zero targets. The key benefits to retrofit, I would say, are reducing your costs, your energy costs, reducing your carbon footprint. We need to bring people together to actually understand what this is about at the really practical level, and actually that the outcome of the project that they've embarked on is with certainty going to give them what they've been told in the first instance.
Looking ahead, we are even more confident that we can find more meaningful ways to support the UK's important priority of transitioning domestic homes for net zero. We're using the findings from the Big Retrofit to help shape our sustainable housing strategy and find more ways to help our members.
To find out more about the Big Retrofit, take a look at our dedicated hub on skipton.co.uk/thebigretrofit. Here you can take a virtual tour of the property to learn how the retrofit measures look and the difference they're making.